With a very special individual, also known sometimes as the Witch of Oz. But she's Tamara von Fulsom. Fulsom. Okay, take your drink. And she has done numerous books. One of the latest books that people are out there about elders, and she has written numerous books. There's a lot of practices out of Australia, but you can buy her items anywhere. And so, welcome. Thank you, Lady Tamara.
Thank you very much, Ed. And lovely meeting you and your wonderful constituents that are watching the show. I hope they enjoy our little talk today.
I also too. So let's go ahead and talk about a little bit. A lot of people know who you are, but some may not. Can you tell a little bit about who you are?
Yep, sure. I mean, I've been involved in the craft now for 55 years. I was initiated in 1970 into traditional coven. And when I mean traditional, I mean pre-Gardnerian or Alexandrian. The clan that I belong to is well known right back to the 1700s as the clan of Boskednan, and it's traditional witchcraft of Cornwall. And in fact, I have a book coming out in the beginning of next year, which for the first time reveals a lot of that concepts, which is very, very different to what people think witchcraft is these days. And I've been involved. I was also ordained with the Fellowship of Isis. I'm also an Alexandrian high priestess. I've just done quite a lot because I wanted to experiment. I wanted to know the truth. And my journey at that time when I was young, there was nothing involved. There were closed groups, closed covens. No one was talking openly about anything. And I had to search and travel to find my truth as much as I possibly could. And that was beneficial in meeting wonderful people like Raymond Buckland, who assisted me and helped me, and a lot of other people like Scott Cunningham, and a few other people that were and have become great friends of mine in the past.
And recently, we've been exploring the videos, and there seems to be a very large movement towards recognizing Buckland because he passed away a little more than 5 years ago, and now there's a resurgence because of the museum.
That's correct.
Lady Tony and Steve are all Steve Emerald. Yes, we saw the interview with them. Have been just sort of doing an amazing job, and there's been this revival of what has happened with Buckland, and you cover them in one of your most popular books now, and it's I should have written this down of elders. That's right, pagans and witch elders of the world. And I thought it was very fascinating. He's right there on the cover on that. Can you talk about that book first?
Yeah, it's. I think the problem is growing up with the craft movement and traveling, being lucky enough to travel the world and meeting so many people. Most people never got the chance or opportunity to meet our great elders who were all crazy in their own way of life, but were so gutsy that they fought the establishment and cleared the pathways for all the people that are following today. Raymond Buckland was one of the greats who just took the craft from England, brought it and introduced it to America, and helped just spread that word. He was known as the father of witchcraft. He was a mentor to me and a good friend. And his coven, his last high priestess, the wonderful Lady Tony Rotunda, who is now the owner and keeper of the Buckland Museum in Cleveland, Ohio, with the beautiful director Steve, who's running it there, and he's got a fistful of knowledge. He's really been gaining a lot of momentum there. And it's just, I wanted people to understand the elders, past, present, and those that are upcoming, what I call the eldlings, because they're still young, but they're not old enough to be an elder, but they will be. So I wanted this book to represent them. And it took so long because there was a lot of people didn't want to be in it. A lot of people didn't want photos in it, didn't want anything. And it took me years to get the permissions and get the journeys and get the words of all these elders and people from the past that I'd known to compile them and put them in the book. And the book has been absolutely amazing. It's won awards. It's a very top seller. It's just great. And if anyone wants to know any of the elders from the 12th century right up to now, and all those that I see that are young now, that are upcoming, that are becoming to take over from us, who are with one foot in the grave, so to speak, they're taking over from us. They're going to be the elders of the future. So people need to be aware of who they are. And also there's a lot of demigods out there that like being their own god in their backyard, which we're not including because we don't want them to be teaching people. We want people that have that humble nature, that knowledge, that wisdom to be able to partake, share, and teach people and guide people correctly in the pagan movement, whichever way it goes.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a very important distinction. And I think that's an important distinction that people are seeing a lot of it because, like in the United States, we've seen a growth. I've been reading about the growth in Australia, all over the world. The craft is growing in leaps and bounds uh, in such multiples. And so, having a history book, they can. Where can they get that book and any of your other books?
They can get it at most of the popular websites worldwide, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, just
Mhm.
any of them. Or they can get it from my website. And if they get it from my website, I can give them a signed copy as well, which is special. That's at https:// and my name, Tamara von Fulsom.com. Or they can get it from my website, www.witchofoz.com as well.
I love that name. Because I know because you share that because you also are friends with Oberon, right? If I
With
understand.
who?
Oberon Zell.
Oh, Oberon, yes. Oh, my 80 years old. What a great old
And then
soul.
you just handed over the headmaster to a younger, like
Yes.
another younger
Yeah.
elderling, as you would call him.
And that's what we're all doing. Our elderlings are taking over because we've got to be able to pass the mantle before we kick off the perch. And
Hmm.
that's important. And Oberon has been here for us since the 60s. He's led the way, he's charged ahead in his crazy, zany mannerisms, but he's such a beautiful soul. And happy birthday, Oberon. Love you to pieces.
Absolutely.
And we did a tour a few years ago, and the Wizard of Oz and the Witch of Oz traveling, which was quite funny.
Right.
But yes, he's a beautiful, beautiful soul.
And so, yeah, and that, so you can see that in the book. So you have a number of bestsellers. What would you recommend if somebody were to pursue reading your material? How would they do it?
Well, I mean, the big conflict at the moment with people is really um, solitary versus mixing with a coven or clan or learning traditional ways. I do recommend that we are social creatures. We need to learn from each other, and learning set craft methods or ways is very good at doing that. But this is one of my top sellers, Solitary Wicca.
Hmm.
As you can see that, I don't know if it's reversed in your camera, but
No, it's not.
that's one of yeah, that's my one of my best sellers, along with the Pagan Witch Elders of the World, which is very good as well.
Hmm.
Um, it's very informative. It gives people a basics, and it's a genuine down to earth. It's a combination of old and new. So it's traditional witchcraft as well as modern Wicca involved in it by connecting it all together to create a good journey. And it's got a lot of stuff in there that a lot of people may know, but then there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. And it's just about putting it all together, compiling it for one student or one seeker to find their truth. And from here, it's up to them whether they want to remain pagan or Wiccan or witch or become a Hare Krishna. It doesn't matter as long as they know their truth, find their truth, and their spirit is awakened in that reality for themselves. I do have more books. One of my new books, which is coming out, which is probably going to be one of the most incredible books I've written. It's taken me many, many years. I'm very unsure about wanting to publish it because it's classed The Lost Magic of Cornwall, and that's the title of it. And it's The Secrets and Magic of Witchcraft of Boskednon, which is where my family tradition comes from the stone circles in Cornwall. And this is all about covering true traditional witchcraft, and that should be out in the beginning of the year. I believe that will be my bestseller, and the best book I've ever written because it's done totally with my heart and passion.
I can understand that. It is hard because there is a lot of, so I do, people know me as a numbers person. Other people study paganism. I study pagans. I'm the other way around. So I'm always studying our communities. We're like 79% still solitary. The community is still,
Yeah.
and in other parts of the world, there's even more. So that it is still become a very solitary practice, which it wasn't in the early days. It was more of the idea of it. And I think one of the things that has helped the solitaire community, as well as helped create it, is the creation of great books. So, what's the first book you ever wrote? What was your first published book?
My first book was called The Complete Teachings of Wicca, Book One, The Seeker, followed by a, a more advanced book, which is Complete Teachings of Wicca, Book Two, The Witch.
Mhm.
Um, and they were my best books that I've got because they were training manuals, they were educational manuals that people could use and help guide them through all the stages. So they had to learn all the understanding or underlying sort of things guide them through all the different concepts of what they're needing, but not having to spend a fortune in finding their spiritual truth. It's about going out to nature, finding your truth, finding a piece of wood, that's your wand, finding a skull or a bone or something and making talismans or charms. It's about going back to the raw, natural essence of what the world is all about. And that's quite important for people to go back to their truth, their essence. Don't study and worship gods from another country or culture that you have nothing to do with or not deal with. Understand your DNA, understand your ancestors, and just go for it. And that first two books, Complete Teachings of Wicca, book 1 and 2, you can get at any website around the world. I'm actually offering them to any viewers at the moment or anyone out there as a Yule gift from me for the 2 books for the price of 1 via my website as a gift. So people can contact me directly and I will sign them and send them to them.
And remember that website. Remember, folks, this is the holiday season. Spend with our community. It's witchofoz.com. And
Yeah.
of course, we have the full name. We'll put this in the listings. You know the routine at this point.
Yeah.
And so folks do that. So I think that's very interesting that you did manuals for your first set of books, and now you're doing history.
Yeah. I believe that history and manuals are the same. So we need to educate and bring out the truth, because there's a lot of crap out there. I'm sorry to use that word, but there's a lot of rubbish out there that is so wrong. People keep changing the rules. You know, I mean, I heard somebody the other day say there's only one rule in paganism. There are no rules, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, come on, people, grow up. Everything has a rule. Everything has a law. Everything has a way of life. Even your parents used to give you a whack on the backside if you broke their rules and laws. So it's about finding that. And I think people just need to awaken to themselves and know the elders, know the history, know the truths, and you can add to it if you wanted to make it yourself and your own individual thing, but have the basis, the raw basis of what is true before you start playing. You know, one of my children's books I wrote called The Little Witchling is about a little witchling that plays with magic, and every time she does a spell, she screws up and it goes backfires and goes backwards. And the moral of the story at the end of it is basically that don't play with something you don't understand until you learn about what it's all about.
Oh, that's very interesting, because one of the biggest things that people are asking for you are children's books. We're having a big revolution in an evolution, I would call it, in the United States, about taking back the education of children from just the public system, just even the private system. That one of the things I say it all the time myself is that we're never going to be a truly free people until we own our own education.
Exactly.
I mean, that, sort of thing, because that's where a lot of culture, a lot of paradigms come into the child's life. And if we're not involved with it, because I think books like that are important, because I think one of the things I do here. So I've heard the rules of pagans. I've heard that for 40 years now. I mean, that's always been, there's no rules, and okay, try that. But, and on that, but one of the other rules is that we aren't supposed to teach our children. This is another rule that I think is wrong, and is that we don't teach our children. We want them to have a free choice. And ultimately, nobody else does. And I think having a great book like that helps, kind of break that barrier. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, about the idea that we should be educated.
Oh, totally. I mean, the problem with the world is governments and society have taken away our responsibilities to be adults, be parents, and be human beings. They're saying, we grow up with the words, don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. Don't do that, you'll fall. Don't do that, you'll mess up. And yet the fact is we need to experience our own failings. We need to be able to fall and get up and help ourselves in that. And I just wish people would take away that and allow us to be responsible. And that's what a true pagan is, being responsible for yourself and for every action you make. Don't blame other people, because it's not anyone else's fault except your own. You take one step at a time. And when people want to play games, and they say there's no rules, I say, well, okay, drive your car with a blindfold on and see how long that rule lasts. It's just the way the world's going. And I just want people to start going back again. Everyone's saying I'm a pagan, but they don't even know what a pagan is. Or I'm a Wiccan, and they don't know what that is. Or I'm a witch. They just wake up one morning and say I'm a brain surgeon, and they expect that they know everything and the universe is going to bring everything to them. I believe that there's very much a difference today between wishcraft and witchcraft. One is wishing and one is truth, and that's about where it comes from.
I get that. Wayne Dwyer's book is early on was very much. He had a book literally called Witchcraft, and we have
Mhm.
the Secret, and those are some really great ideas, but they leave you kind of like not finishing the work because you can make. I always say you can cast a spell, but do you do the work afterward? Do you make those opportunities happen? I've been
Mhm.
very fortunate in my life to have that, but I get to meet wonderful people like yourself. I'd like to cover one more thing, if it's okay. Is that you talked about the Dalai Lama? You were here with him for a while, and you wrote
Yeah,
a book out of that. Hmm?
yeah, I worked with it because out of all the people that I've ever been drawn to in the world, I mean, I used to when I was young, I was very undisciplined. I couldn't meditate to save your life on it. I was fidgeting. I just couldn't do it. And to me, the first concept of true meditation or true ritual in being a witch is meditation, learning to shut down, go within, and all these things. So I joined a Buddhist sanctuary to learn to meditate, to be a bit more disciplined. And from there, I started assisting the journeys, the tours of the Dalai Lama when he came to Australia. I owned a large security company and that at the time, and we started offering security for him and picking up the monies and donations and doing all that. Then I got to meet him and talk with him and share and told him a little bit about my story. And he was quite fascinated because he didn't really understand what Wicca was. And then when I told him, he goes, "Oh, so you're like a vicar of Wicca." And that's what he called me as a joke, without, I think, really even understanding at the time. But he did eventually. He gave me some beautiful blessing beads and some bits and pieces of him. And, he's getting old as well now, but he's one of the most blissful men in the world, one of the most funny people as well. He has great sense of humor, always laughing, always joking, but always so serious. And he's not wanting people to be Buddhist. He's wanting people to be kind and generous to each other.
Hmm. And that's an absolute truth. So let me go ahead and offer this. We're practicing Yule in the United States, and this is part of our Yule celebrations. But you're celebrating Beltane, right?
What's that? What's
Beltane.
that? What's Beltane?
Yeah. May Day. We call it
Yeah.
May Day in the States.
Well,
But
see,
you're,
I mean,
yeah.
Yule has always been associated around Christmas, but it's not. Everyone has had that in history. I mean, the Hopi Indians in America called it Soyal.
Hmm.
Roman Saturnalia was another one, or the Dongzi in China. You know, everyone has that. Even the Egyptians,
Hmm.
honoring their triune, had their festival as well. Yule is Germanic. It's Germanic in origin and Nordic, and then later it was Celtic. And it's about associating the cold depths, the darkness times when everything descends, everything shuts down. It's about thinking of the community and giving to the poor, giving to the elders, giving to the community, and sharing along those, and honoring and calling back the light. And that's where it's very, very different in many, many times or many ways of doing that. So it's sort of,
Hmm.
it changes. It changes quite a lot.
So it's very much, and so its origination is very much for the timing of it is in the northern hemisphere right now because of that is
Yes,
the
it is.
weather.
Yes, it is. It's about entering the darkness, entering the world of darkness, and then calling for the light to come back. That's basically what it is. Asking. It's about the end of growing dark, and it's about returning the light in that respect as well. It used to be called a lot of terms. I mean, Yule was a 2-month affair. Ages
Mhm.
ago, it used to be a 2-month affair of celebration, which was called the kings and queens of early Britain. Explained that the Yule was this 2-month affair where they used to get out and party for 2 months and enjoy the festivities to call back the sun and call back the light. And it changed its name quite strongly as well. It was Diol in Old English or Yol. Yol in Old Norse as well. So it has changed, but it's also been adopted by so many cultures all over the world as a Christmas time. But it doesn't really have anything to do with Christmas. It's just a celebration of the dark, calling back the light. And this is where the Yule log comes in. The Yule log comes into effect that the clans used to get this big tree, chop it down, and they used to put candles or torches in the big tree to represent all the clans or tribes of that community. And they would drag that log through the town, and then they would save that Yule log and then decorate because it was decorated with cakes and biscuits and sweets and lollies and all this. And then it would go to the feasting. People would feast off it as a feasting table, and then it was kept for the following year, and parts of it were cut up and given to people to bring forward the light for the next year. So it's changed a lot, the traditions, but it's quite a beautiful old tradition.
It is, and I know a lot of people are trying to go back to it, and that idea of it, and it is contributed in. at least from the United States point of view, and I've noticed in parts of Europe, I can't talk for other things, it has gotten mixed match with the gift giving and the Santa Claus, which are kind of
Mm,
pagan-esque, but it is not necessarily part of the Yule. But, you know,
mm,
it is a time of celebration and the idea of gift giving and things of that nature. I
yeah.
think, but that's relatively modern, right? That part of it, or is it not?
No, gift giving is always, but it was a giving because everyone knew winter was coming. So it was about looking after the community. So people would put all their fruit, their grains, their meats, whatever, and get it prepared, and then they would then see the poor of the community and they would give it to the poor of the community. That's how the gifts started, and then all of a sudden the new god of the 20th century or 18th century comes into it, and then they start saying, well, money is the new god, so let's start using money and buying things as gifts and giving people
Mhm.
clothes and jumpers, and then all of a sudden the children want toys, so they give them the toys, and from the toys we, so it's changed. It's not, it's like every festival, it's like everything, it just blows out of proportion, and it all becomes a commerce. It becomes a financial business of $1 billion industry worldwide that does not support the pagan community, because most of our money is spent on other things, going to China or Asia or whatever with the toys and things we buy, where we should be supporting and using you to support our pagan businesses, our pagan cultures, our pagan authors, because they're the ones that are needing it. And people go, oh, you must be loaded, you must have a fortune because you've written all these books and you've got this, and you think, well, no, because every book that's sold out there, there's another million books brought out on the same time, you
Mhm.
know, and that's exactly the problem. I remember my first check that I got from my first books. I got a check for $30,000 for 3 months, my first book. And I went, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And then I looked at it. 90% of it was through ebooks.
Hmm.
That's like $1.50 or $3 a book, and you think, Jones.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And I do think, and that's why we're doing this, and I really appreciate that. So which of us .com is the one that's easiest to remember right now, but there's, go out there, look at for the books. The more I'm going to do a direction. If you're going to go to Amazon, remember to use Amazon Cares for one of the organizations. I understand some people need to and they want to for various reasons. There's a number of the pagan groups who have their 501c3s and other sort of things. Use the Amazon Care function in that. I would ask you if you are going to use them, but buy directly. Go to your local bookstore, ask them to it, because her books are available everywhere, and if they don't have them, they'll be happy to order them from you. And you saw a lot
Yes.
of great shops a part of this, so just kind of do that. Um,
One thing I want to just say here, Ed, is that the sad truth is that 99% of all the pagan authors that are out there can't get their books into bookstores. They're online, they're on websites, they're in all these things, but we need to have them. And to help pagan authors, you need to go to your bookstore and say, I want this book. I don't want to get it from Amazon or wherever. I'd like to get it from you. Can you get it in for me? Help them,
mhm,
help that small business by
yeah.
also helping the author as well.
And I think that's an important part unpacked around that. So one thing, so you're not, so it's Christmas. I guess you're in the Christmas season and not the old season per se. But one last thing I want to know, you're going to be in the United States. You're going to be attending Starwood,
Starwood Festival in July. I think it's July
14th
11th
through
to
the 17th.
17th or something.
Yeah, 14th, I think.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can go to our site. That we will be covering Starwood. We will once again be out at Starwood. Um, that sort of thing. And you'll be at the Buckland Museum. Check it out. The Raymond Buckland Museum
Yes.
in Cleveland, Ohio. And I have a feeling your class will sell out soon. So as soon as you know that you want to go there to it, you should go ahead and sign up for those as soon as possible. And the great people at the Buckland Museum will help you do that really, really well, as you know. And it's a fascinating place. We're going to have more coverage on that. So as always, I give the last word to my guest here. And so anything you'd like to say to everybody?
I think firstly and foremostly, because I've been an elder and a teacher for many, many years, I think it's about community. It's not about being out there on your own. It's about connecting with other people. It's not about your personal choices or decisions and being who's right, who's wrong. It's about just coming together as a community and sharing. Yule is about sharing. Yule is about giving, the gift of giving from your heart, not a gift, not $1 million, not $1, but if you're going to do them for the pagan community that you say you're a part of. Give it to them, buy pagan products, buy pagan gifts from pagan people that are genuine, and help everybody out in the author. And in doing that, it'll just keep monopolizing, and it'll just keep helping. And every dollar that will roll down will roll back to your pocket as well for the pagan community. And I just want to say, if I am indeed wise, I do not bid you enter the house of my wisdom, but rather lead you to the threshold of your own mind. Blessed be.
Blessed be. And thank you, folks. Witch of Oz. What more can be said? Be bound with more